Qantas, one of the world's oldest airlines. Its first scheduled route, or its first flight, mail flight, went from Charleville to Winton. What I've tried to do here, this is a different sort of approach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a montage of a plane. And let's have a look. The first piece I'm going to do is right here. We notice where we're going here. There we go. That's the engine of a 737, the brand new 737-800s. Now, so what I've done is I've started by carving a buck. That's for the shape of the engine. Now I'll put that in and I'll stretch some acetate over the top of that. Probably do that in two sections, this one here and this one here. I'll simply do that by getting acetate and wrapping it around. That's the first bit. The next bit is the fuselage. Constellation 737, DC3, Catalina, Avro 504K, one of the first planes they flew. 737 tail because I need to have the kangaroo on it. Floats from the seaplanes. DC6 I think. I'll get round to that in a minute. But that's a piston engine. And then one of the old post First World War undercarriages. So a variety of things. So I'm going to make that engine in two halves. Just need a clean bit of acetate. Let's just try that. I wonder if that'll work. Never know. Might do if I take it off. So I've just pulled one of those off. Did you see that? What I might do is show you the whole process. Heat it up. So it starts to melt, it starts to stretch. Watch your fingers, because it hurts when they. And then stretch it over the engine shape. Stretch it hard. And then what will happen is, once it's cooled down, it's formed into the engine shape. So what I've got then is the engine shape. Two of those together will make the engine. So what I'll do is I'll cut those and join them. So I've really got two halves there. I know it looks a bit funny, doesn't it? But I've got two halves that will join. Here's one we did earlier. There's one of the halves sanded. So there's the engine. Look, what I've done is I've joined those two halves along the front, put a cardboard bulkhead in the side. I've made an engine support out of plywood. If we go around the back, you'll see what's happened to the backs. I've used a piece of plastic stretched to make the engine, and there's a mount here that goes onto that panel here. It's been joined on later, so they've been joined together. I'm using a large piece of reference. I've got a Qantas poster of the new 737-800. So that's my reference point. So mine's much smaller, of course, isn't it? You can see that. There's the original and there's mine. So what I'm going to do now is give it a bit of a paint so I can see how it's looking. I've been dying to do that. It's a bit tricky because I've joined two pieces of acetate and done lots and lots of filling on the edge because the shape wasn't quite right. So I'm hoping that the shape's good enough when it's painted. What I'll do is I'll put a layer of paint on so I know what filling I need to do. I guess that's what's going to have to happen. These brush is too stiff. Need something much softer. Water the paint down a bit, see if that goes a bit better. I've used a combination of things, cardboard, plywood, plastic. I guess you just have to make an assessment. I needed the plywood rather than balsa wood because I'm sick of the balsa wood chipping when I'm carving it. So it's like, I don't know. It's a question of knowing what material will hold the shapes best, the shapes that you're seeking. Plywood's great for support too. Next time I'll make spars. If I'm putting long wings in, I'm going to make the spars out of plywood. Once again, this side of the engine you won't see, so I'm going to be a little less careful about it. I mean, it sounds a bit weird, but there you go. It's part of that experience. I like the idea that there's a part of it that's still being shaped. I like that idea, that things come out of somewhere and that's evident. Same in my drawings. There's a part of them. I've used cardboard in here because I didn't use wood because the grain in the wood makes it split in the balsa wood. When I'm making bulkheads, I'm cutting them, they tend to split. Just a bit worried because it's not acid-free cardboard. I think it might be a bit weird after a couple of years. I'm hoping it won't be. But what I'll do is I'll fill it up and I don't know. We'll do our best. But it's a good solid base. Now I needed to paint at this stage because I've been sanding and I don't know if the shapes are correct. You really need to see it. It's looking a bit better. Beautiful. Oh yeah, it is good. Look, I've been so keen to make these engine naces. I love the way they hang up modern engines. I tend towards favouring older planes. But some things of modern aircraft are just fantastic. The way they hang those engines off those wings, it's just got to be seen to be believed because they're not light. Great bit of structural engineering, I reckon. Very elegant. Beautiful fairings and stuff. So I was dying to make it, and so there you go, there's a jet engine. That's pretty good. A bit of sanding, that'll get wet and dry sanded. That's a sandpaper that will make it very smooth. There's the motor. I've got a really fun trick I want to show you. What I want is I want to get the feeling of metal. The collar around the front of this engine. The collar around the front of this engine is it's a shiny sort of, I guess it must be aluminium, aircraft grade aluminium. So what I'm going to do is take the motor, and I'm going to mark the ring off. That's the using a compass. I'll just mark off the edge, and can you guess what I'm going to use? I'm not going to use silver paint. You might be able to guess from what you see. I'll just show you. It's a great technique. So I've painted it white first with undercoat. That smooths everything off and gives you a good base. Helps the other paint attach too. So I've marked off the engine ring. What I do is I simply grab a black lead pencil. And what I'm going to do is darker and lighter. I'm just going to make some parts of it dark, some parts of it light, just like metal, because the pencil, which is graphite, is a type of metal. Silver paint I find just looks terrible on models. It just makes it look like it's the wrong scale. So what I do is I just colour in really. Can you see how it's starting to look like metal already? But wait, there's more. Not only, but also make it darker up against the edge for some reason. And then I grab a clean cloth and I polish it. Make sure I show the light and dark. And I'm going to use a rubber on it too in a minute. Not because it's wrong. Look at that. Don't know if that's lit properly, but you can see how much like metal that looks. Well, because it is really. You've just rubbed pure metal into there. Powdery sort of metal, but there you go. And what I'll do is, so I've rubbed a bit of pencil in there. See, that looks great, doesn't it? Now what I'm going to do is just darken up the bottom. What is it, a HB? I think it's just a HB pencil too. I think it'd probably get a better effect if I used a 2B or something. So they're lovely tricks, aren't they? I mean, the more you polish, the more highly polished the metal gets, which is really cool. So you get that real metal effect. Now don't worry about the edge here because I'm going to mask this off with masking tape. See how it's starting to look like that? Now see if we can get inside there. I don't know what's going to be like inside there. Might have to do that differently. Same thing, I guess. Dark and light. Won't be able to get in there as easily though. I have to be careful I don't damage the edge. I might have to use something else to polish that. No, that won't do it. Might need another buffer. So I use foam here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I'm just going to darken some of that up. It's all about light. Metal's all about light reflection. And yeah, because it's so highly polished. Well, it really looks the part now. If I wanted to highlight something, make a bright light, what I'd do is, just gonna get a rubber. Now we've done 2 sections. If we get down here, the first thing I did was the engine. I'll just show you that. Look, that's the engine now. It's probably more instructive to see the other side. Look at that. All the bits that I haven't done. It's pretty lumpy, isn't it? But it looks good from this side. Rather nice. That's just coloured. That's that lead pencil coloured in, but it looks marvellous from a distance. Colouring seems a much better way to do metal because it's like using metal. So I was just using that pencil. Same as was used for the drawing, really. So here's the backdrop, the growing outback. I can't wait to draw another one of those. That's such good fun, but I'm going to figure out how to do the cloud this time. The next thing we're going to do is this piece here, which is from this aircraft here, the post-Second World War Lockheed Constellation 4-engine transatlantic trans-Pacific airline. You can see the fuel tanks on the wings. It was famous for travelling huge distances, and Qantas was big into constellations, so that's what I'll be doing now. But if you have a look here, you can see the fuselage. What I've done is I've used the compass. I've used the compass to get the dimensions over off the drawing, and they get transferred over to the balsa plug. Let's have a look. There's the curve of the fuselage, and what I'll be doing is I'll be carving it out from there. So let's have a look at that. Carve away from your fingers. Carve away from your fingers. Very sharp knife. What I do is I just try and get the end profile first. I mean, that's the one, and then I'll transfer it back this way. And you can see how easily balsa wood carves, of course. It's wonderful. Now this is going to have to be sanded many times, but that'll do to start with. End grain's funny, it's sort of like all, it's very hairy. It's all the fibres of the wood sticking out. Imagine along a piece of wood, there's fibre running all the way along, and at the end it sort of all sticks up like end fibres. So, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because it's just going to plug into another piece of wood, so just smooth it so the dirt's off it a bit. I was just thinking to myself how much I'm enjoying this process, because all these things, the pieces of wood I've got here, the plastic that I used for the engine, it's all been discarded. It's all stuff that was worth nothing. I love that idea. That things that are worth nothing become precious. It's alchemy. Because look, see this thing? The engine, which I'm very proud of, I just love it. The front's not very good because it's not the right shape. See how it's irregular? Oh, gee, it won't do it, will it? It's the light. Anyway. But the engine, it was just thrown away pieces of plastic like this. I think I've got the two discarded ones. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. Becomes a thing of beauty. That's that engine, that's the engine base. And that's what's become that. It's just an old piece of plastic. I really love that sensation. Same here. What I didn't show you was the tailplane that I've had to change. Look at this lovely tailplane. Yeah, anyway, I'll have to change it because the fuselage isn't big enough. I'll show you in a minute. So we trace off the design from my original, and what I'll do is I'll move the plan away. And now what I'll do is I'll transfer that off there. Should pin it up. This is just to get a basis. I'll be controlling the shape at all stages. So what I'll do is I'll be putting the photo up and checking each piece as I'm carving. See if I can get that, see if that came across. Oh yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, it's probably not very apparent. You can see the back there for sure. This bit's very clear. This bit's not so clear. Okay, what I'll do is I'll saw that out. It's a great bit of wood. I couldn't have chosen a better bit of wood for this. It's very, very robust. It's going to do well. So you can see how that rough shaping takes place. It's sort of like it's more fun than the barrel monkeys. I really love this stage. I like that rough cutting stage. I like getting things So this is the result there. You can see the cabin starting to shape. Nice. Lots of sanding. There's a bit of a shadow tone there, so I think there's stuff to get rid of there. Just lots of sanding now, really. Okay, we've got the group of pieces that we need. I wanted to show you something. See this engine cowling here, which you'll see from this side. This engine cowling will be seen from this side. I've made it out of a branch because I need some hard wood that would accept some carving. So what you can see here is, put the cowl back down here. First I cut a length of branch with a saw. You can see that that's just a bit of, and that came from something, this came from this. So I took off the bark and then I started shaping it with the pliers, and now I've got this, and that's pretty well how it's going to be for the final shot. So that's the engine nacelle to a Constellation. The fuselage, remember we were cutting that fuselage. Balsa wood. I've put the hand lettering on that. You can probably see that it's really not very, very sharp. Oh, let's have a look. You can probably see that it's not that hot. Once again, I've used coloured pencil for the metal bits, which looks kind of like coloured pencil when you get up close. But as you get further away, it seems fine. It just seems fine. Well, not coloured pencil, so I've used grey lead pencil to get that sort of effect. Painted the cabin windows. This is great because as you go around the corner, you see that there's nothing there. It takes a lot of sanding, I guess, to get that final finish, but it looks great. It's starting to really get the look. So this is 737. You saw that piece. This is Constellation. It's weird, isn't it? It's very small lettering. That goes with the Connie. Can't even see it. and that's also with the Constellation. So there's the engine nacelle. And then we go back in time. First Qantas aeroplane. You can not possibly see how small those letters are. Let me put my finger next to it and it'll give you an idea. I've just been starting here, and that's what I'll go on with here. As small as my fingernail, okay? So what I'll do is now I'll set up the I'll start painting this because I want to paint this dark green. I've left this attachment here at the top so that I can actually hold it when I'm painting it. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll set that up so I can paint that green. So I've got the paint from the Vickers Vimy, G-E-A-O-U. That was the registration of the Vickers Vimy. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the Qantas plane, the first Qantas Avro 504, built in Australia, with an inline engine. I'd never seen a 504 with an inline engine before. Usually had a rotary. It's not pretty with an inline either. Actually, I like that about Australian planes. A lot of them weren't pretty. They were kind of rugged and workmanlike. I guess the conditions were totally different, and they had to use what they could get, I guess. So what we'll do is we'll paint this green on. I'm going to put 2 coats on at least, probably 3, because I want to do the Avro sign on the back. So this paint's probably kept for 2 months since I did the Vimy. By putting it in a film canister like that, I can keep the same colour in case I have to patch the Vickers. But it allows me also, because it's the same as the Qantas, the green that they used. It must have been an ex-war surplus plane. You know, like an ex-service plane. A plane that had been used by the army. Because the green's identical according to the photos anyway. Which is kind of cool. They're hard to mix. I'm finding the colours I'm seeing, I have to mix everything. There's nothing I can use neat out of a tube or a thing. You just have to get used to mixing. Make your things darker or lighter. My mum used to tell me, if something's old, you mix dirt in it. You always mix some brown in with an old pigment to make it look like the dirt. And you always do what your mum tells you. So I've been doing that. And it works. Well, that's because my mum told me. It's kind of cool. I'll hold that up in a sec. Some of these acrylic paints are not what I'd like to paint with. A gouache is much nicer. It covers everything in one shot. I'm finding the coverage is terrible. Sometimes I have to go, like when I was painting orange, I had to paint it 5 times. Bad coverage, there we go. Fantastic, so we'll let that dry. Very nice. It's varnish. Okay, I varnished that bottom bit. I wanted to varnish to secure the letters so I can varnish the top bit. I'll mix it half and half, shiny and matte for the top surface, but I've sealed the letters now. I might do that with the tailplane too, I don't know. Just anybody. Let's do an update. What you can see here is the new plane. This is the composite aircraft. The wing section. Truncated wing, which means I've shortened this so that when you look at it from the side it looks long. I've got the Avro 504K fuselage end. It's one of my favourite planes, it always has been. You can't see how small that writing is. In fact, it's too small for me to write. At the start of Qantas in an Avro biplane made in Australia. Jumbo jet tail. The idea is that these things go together like this. That tail goes on and it links that. I've got a diagram here on the base. It's a diagram here. So I line it up on the diagram. Attach the pieces. And then this wing, this is a Constellation wing. This is 737-800. Lockheed Constellation, Boeing 707, Avro 504K, Boeing 747. It's still masked here. Now, I had a bit of trouble with the masking tape, so that goes into there. That looks good, doesn't it? And then I've got this. The wing tanks from the Super Constellation. Love those wing tanks. They'll look good. Wing tanks. Goes like that. And also we've got the 737-800 engine. And that'll hang under there. I've got to make a thing. I've got to make a frame to hang it into. But the other thing we'll be doing with this tailplane, it's got a separate rudder. But what I needed to do was peel this tape off, and you can see it's a bit hideous actually because it's pulling up the paint. So that masks it off to give me a crisp edge. I'll have to touch that up now. So I've got those pieces there, so I have to build up a bracket along underneath the engine, and that will support the engine, the jet engine. So it's a composite plane. I just did the tail plane and made sure that front leading edge has got a metal finish. It's pretty good. So next thing I'll be doing is securing that about there. That'll be secured and these pieces will be added. Bit of a composite, bit of Qantas history there. Okay, so let's have a look at the back of this. It might be instructive just to see the back of this. There's a lot of filler there, isn't there? This is all filler to give that rounding on the bottom. It's a reinforcement panel of plywood, and there's plastic to hold the edges, because those edges break off often when you're sanding them. I took the rudder out because there's no way in the world. Oh, it's stuck now. I can drop it down there. So I took the rudder out because that looks like a Coca-Cola symbol. So I can clip it back in when I need to. Gives it a much more authentic look, I think. It's little windows on the doorway. Let's have a look at the back of this. This might be instructive too. Each of the fuselage pieces is joined together with a fillet. You can see the recycled bits of wood. See the wedges I used? It looks like, because I had to level up the pitch of things. When I held those fuselages down, they didn't look quite right until I had them at the right angle. So what I had to do was I just had to put some wedges in there just to make them come up to the right height. It's very cute though. Very proud of this one. The top of the wing has no surface on it at all, because you're not going to see much of it. I will paint it, but you won't see it in the shot. The shot's going to be like that. Nice thing. We've got the exhausts on the engine cowling.